The dodge tool is used to brighten parts of photos. So you can see here that this is a photo of my daughter against a pretty beige wall in our house. And I want the background to be more white. So the first thing I'm going to do is brighten it. And I'm really only looking at her right now when I'm brightening it using the curves tool. I'm thinking only about her and what I want her to look like. And then the next thing I'll do is focus on the wall. So the dodge tool looks kind of like a black lollipop. It's down there on the left. And it's in contrast to the burn tool. The burn tool is used to darken sections of the photo. And so the exposure is set at 21%, which makes it softer. So if it was harsher or higher, then I wouldn't be able to brighten near her without it all really affecting the way that she looks. So basically what you're going to do is just paint the photo, and it's kind of making it whiter as you go along. And so you can make it bigger or smaller using the right or left parenthesis. The right parenthesis makes it bigger and the left makes it smaller. This is on a Mac. I'm assuming that's the same on a PC, but it might not be. So I'm just painting the edges. It's nice to have a little bit of a border there so you can go around the edges and kind of get a sense of the full frame of the photo. So it takes a lot of different painting here to get a lot of different strokes to kind of get the image that you want. But you can see part of the circle is covering her, but you can't really tell. So there, I changed the exposure and did it higher so that you could see what you could do if you make a mistake. You go to history and then you can go back a few times to when you liked it before and then start over. Kind of a way to erase your work if you don't like what you did. So you just keep doing it until it's the brightness that you want it to be. Right around her head there, I feel like there's kind of that shadow that's hard. And then the edges are always kind of tricky. So I do this a lot when I'm creating like a 12 by 12 or 9 by 12 layout, and I want the background to be the basis for my layout and essentially serve like white cardstock. And so in the next section, I'm going to talk about how I convert this then to a larger canvas, which is nice because the color is cleaner. So this is what I do when I want to take this photo, for example, and make it a 12 by 12 layout and have her in the bottom right corner. So I'm going to create a new document, 12 by 12 at 300 pixels per inch, which is pretty standard for printing. And I'm going to drag, well, first I'm going to size that at 12 inches high. Same pixels per inch. Drag that over. And then if I want her, you can see on the right there, I didn't brighten it very much because you can see the edge of the photo. So this kind of gives a sense of how white it really is. So if I want her there on the bottom right, I'm going to grab the color like from the top there. You can see that eyedropper tool is grabbing that color. And then I'm going to paint the background to match that so that it's the same white. You can still see kind of a difference, and I brighten it here in a second. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to use the dodge tool again here in a second. You can very faintly see that there's a line between the photo and the background. So I'm just going to brighten that on up just to make them match a little bit more. Depending on how picky you are, you can do that, to your heart's content. And so now I've got a nice background there for a layout. So this tool is used to change the color of a digital image according to a photo. So the first thing you're going to do is click on the bottom left squares there and pick a color from the image. If you hover over, that little eyedropper comes up. And so I picked that pink from my daughter's jumper. Now I'm finding the paint bucket tool, and I'm going over to that image, and you want to make sure your tolerance is about 20, opacity is 100% if you want the whole thing to be covered. And you just click any section, and it'll grab, it knows, because it can sense the borders there. It'll pick those colors and just fill that section, because that depends on your tolerance. So if the tolerance was higher, it would fill the whole image. So I'm just picking random colors from the photo to fill this, and you could play around with this to see what you like. You could do an ombre, you could do a rainbow. I mean, there's all sorts of options here, but this is something nice about digital images because you can make it work for your specific photos. Grabbing a little bit of her hair. I just played around. So now the clone stamp tool is great for any kind of imperfection. So this is a photo that I took of food on our dining table, and there were crumbs and there's kind of a lot of messes in the wood. You can use this for acne, anything like skin on people's faces, or anything that's a mistake in a photo that's really distracting. So I'm going to go through here and clean up this wood and these crumbs. So the clone stamp tool looks like a little stamp. It's over there on the left, and you're going to click the section that you want it to look like. You click near it. So for example, when I'm doing that, I'm clicking to the left because that's what I want it to pattern against. So right there is what the thing on the right is going to look like. So this little white thing over here, I'm going to grab from the left, click, and then click over it, and it's basically just, it's cloning it. So it's stamping whatever you click when you click Alt. That's what it's doing on the other side. I'm being picky and doing a really small little crumb there by the plate. So you use the right and left parentheses to make it smaller and bigger, and then you, on a Mac, you're clicking Alt to select the section that you want it to clone against. Then you're hovering over the section that you want to replace and you're clicking. This can take a little bit of time to get the hang of, but just play around with it and then you get kind of a sense of what it can do. It can be really handy for cleaning up photos. So here I'm going to talk about how to fill a shape with text. So first we're going to do a circle, and actually a half circle of text. So here I'm using the shape tool to draw a 3-inch circle, and you're going to use, when you're drawing the ellipse, you want to make sure you're clicking shift, and that will make it a perfect circle rather than an ellipse or anything oblong. And I'm only doing this as a guide for my pen to kind of get a sense of what a perfect circle will look like. So then I'm grabbing the pen tool, which is over there on the left, looks like a pen. And you want to make sure when you're doing this that you're selecting shape. So I'm just going to randomly sort of follow the circle. It doesn't have to be perfect because the text is not going to be perfect. You just want to get a general sense of the shape. So I'm clicking all the way around here. Then after you close it, that little circle is going to show up, which means the shape's ready to close. You're going to grab the text tool, hover over, it'll change a little bit, you click, and then you can start typing your text. Now it's really important when you type your text for these shapes that it's just text justified. So meaning you don't want it to be left justified, you want it to be to fill the entire shape. So you'll see here, after I fill it with the text, you go up to Window and then Paragraph. And you can see there, you don't want it to be center because watch what happens when it justifies. It fills it more. So you want it to really replicate that shape and fill each nook and cranny of it as much as possible to mimic the shape. And then if you wanted it to be on the bottom half, you would just click Enter and put it all the way down. So that's how I make the bottom half of the circle. Then here I'm going to talk about how to use the pen tool as a path. So this is where you would select text to wind along a path rather than within a shape. So I've got this little weaving here, and I'm just taking the pen tool and dragging it sort of haphazardly along the edge of the weaving. And you'll see that I make a mistake. I make one of these turns a little bit too sharp, which doesn't work well for text because then it looks really sort of crammed together. Then you select the text tool, and when you hover over that line, it'll change to a little wave. You click where you want it to start, and then you just start typing. So it's similar when you do with a shape. When you hover over it, it'll change to show you that it's ready. You can see there in the word much, the U and the C are sort of scrunched together because that turn was too sharp. So you want to keep it much more flowy than I have it there. And there's really no way to fix it because whatever the letters are, it'll be scrunched. And you could do this, you could follow any shape that you want to, really. It's kind of a cool technique.